AI is great, but I do see a lot of people who still need a lot of accompanying, like people just getting completely overwhelmed.
If my team do not use the enterprise version of ChatGPT for regular day-to-day work, they're fired.
That's good.
Wait,
See, but
are you getting a humanoid robot?
Well, I think I'm just like a little scared that it might not be that ready yet. I'm also worried about what my neighbors are gonna think, but I don't know, maybe that's not something I should worry about.
Why are you worried about your neighbors? Don't worry about neighbors. Hello everybody, here we are again with another episode of Yarns with Andy. Today is going to be quite an exciting conversation. It's going to revolve all around AI, knowledge bases around AI. Welcome Maria from Mott MacDonald. Her main role is she's the knowledge and information manager, and she's the AI lead for the Asia Pacific region for Mott MacDonald. Welcome, Maria. How are you?
Thanks, Andy. I'm great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you could take some time out to be here on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm, do you actually want me to go around like my background and stuff?
Just a brief.
Okay. So I guess a little bit about my background is worth mentioning that I come from a civil engineering background. So my first degree is in civil engineering. I started designing bridges, buildings. And,
exciting stuff.
Yeah, I would say exciting stuff, definitely. I always also really loved architecture and managed to do a master's in emerging technologies and design at a prestigious architectural school in Europe. Which actually triggered even more my passion for technology and solving problems with digital solutions. So I picked up a few tools as to how we could, in the industry and engineering, automate certain processes. And from there, picked up how we can use coding, programming, and...
So did you get into coding as well first? So you were an architect, and then you were designing stuff, and then you got into writing code?
Well, yeah, I learned a little bit. Back in the day was Java and Visual Basic, so super old school programming these days, obviously. But I picked up those skills at the university, and then when I started working designing bridges, whenever I was faced with a task that was just like very boring, to be honest, and I was like, this is not what I went to university for, I tried to apply the skills that I had in coding to build a little program that would just automate the calculation task that I was meant to do.
See, that's incredible. That's incredible what you've just done is you've just automated a boring task. And, funny, I've started doing the same thing now, only because there's AI available. I've taught myself Python. And I simply now grab code from AI, chuck it into Python to automate all my boring tasks. That's almost become second habit to me now. So it's incredible you've been doing it so long.
Yeah. So I've been doing it, I suppose, since like 2008 or somewhere around then. And that actually gave me the perspective as to how we can integrate coding, programming, and really how we can automate processes, not just for design calculations, like engineering calculations or modeling, but also like at an enterprise level to really help with all of the different processes that go on at a company-wide level. So I suppose, my background, you can say that I started in civil engineering, structural design, and then pivoted into digital, now much more with a focus around AI. I did a
have you just realized that's a very unique skill set, yeah? Not many engineers would step into the coding and programming world, but you have.
Yeah, and I've encouraged a few other colleagues and peers to do the same, and I can see that there are more people. There's a growing community of people with these skills. Yeah, people who can be doing building services design for a project, but they also know how to use some of these tools, and so they can use them to their advantage. And I think with AI and all of the more available tools that we now have, obviously after ChatGPT has been released to the public, it's similar in that people have options to use these technologies to enhance how they deliver work, to do it quicker, to do it better, and ultimately to do more with less. I think it's the key.
This kind of leads really well into what I have prepped for the first question, right? Okay. So adoption in AI. Yep. So let's talk about adoption in AI. What are you seeing out there in the industry? Are people adopting it in your world, in the design, construct, engineering world?
And I've seen reports and surveys that have been undertaken by different organizations in New Zealand. One of them, the AI Forum of New Zealand, that suggests that the level of adoption actually from even last year, September 2024 to now in March, has actually grown quite substantially.
Well, that's
I think that the report says something around 67% adoption back in September, and now we are at 82%.
Hang on, what do you class as adoption though? Just downloading ChatGPT or just...
That is a really good question. Because to be honest, it really depends on what we actually understand as adoption. And also, it's not just about using it. So if we mean adoption is using it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to see real benefits. So I think, to me, real good adoption really involves a few aspects. One of them is, how do you organize for risk management around AI? How do you also understand use cases in your organization? How do you prioritize which use cases you identify and you actually implement? There is a huge component of adoption that has to do with skills development and really empowering your team with the right skills. And it's not just about prompting. It's also about understanding, again, going back to the first one on risks, understanding also like information security, also understanding how the AI works in the background, sometimes them understanding a little bit of the architecture, how it's built, what data is actually being surfaced, what sources of information are being surfaced is really important. And they need to be part of the whole AI governance framework.
We'll step into that a little bit. I just want to, I'm really interested in something you said just a little earlier. You said it's not all about prompting. Yes, I understand there's a governance framework, there's risks associated with it, and there's a caveat that says everything AI produces may not be accurate and you've got to cross-check it. Any AI tool. But it is all about prompting though, isn't it? That is the only way you actually find good, valuable outputs, even from a Gen AI, generative AI. If you can't prompt and you don't know what you're prompting, it's garbage in, garbage out, GIGO, shit in, shit out, right? Well, it's the truth. So it is all about prompting though, isn't it?
Well,
I don't know. You tell me.
There's a huge component that I think is about prompting, but there's also a really important component, which is like what knowledge base are you actually prompting or asking for, the AI tool to actually go and find your results, or like it depends obviously on the use case, but I think that's a huge component of it that I think. In some instances, I've seen people in organizations sort of like underestimating how important that is. Because I think like
the knowledge base is 100% important because there's bias, and this bias exists in every single model of whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's DeepSeek, whether it's Claude, Sonnet, you name it. They all have some sort of a bias somewhere, right? And I try and jailbreak GPT. I try and do that for fun every now and again to see if I can give me answers that it shouldn't be giving me. But and then I keep pushing the boundaries to trying to get to that point to going, where are the biases in this knowledge base that exists, right? I try. Sometimes it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Right. But that's not where adoption comes from, right? Okay. So say we're at Gen AI right now. The biggest problem for adoption is people don't even know what it can do for you. People have heard about it and people keep talking about it. Like, look at these two people sitting here and talking about AI, But okay, so say if we want to increase adoption, Okay, think what would somebody in the industry, what would they need to do? Like, just give it a go.
Yeah, well, I would say just give it a go. It's really important. And
But that's where you start for
try.
adoption, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
do you know how many people are reluctant to do that in the construction industry today? Giving it a go. Just open ChatGPT, download the app, just say, I'm going to ask it a few basic questions. So it was incredible, right? So I was on a construction site the other day, and I was speaking to this guy, and I said, "Oh man, yeah, just get ChatGPT to redraft that email for you." He looked at me and he said, "Oh yeah, okay, I can do that." I'm like, "Yeah." So then I gave him another idea, and I said, "You know what? You've probably got about 10 different emails that you've actually written. Create a knowledge base." Right, put it into a Word document, chuck it into ChatGPT, and get ChatGPT to tell you what your writing style is, and then get it to follow your writing style and actually redraft an email based on your writing style. I'll tell you what, it'll work wonders. He's like, "Oh, I never even thought about doing that way." You know, it's like that. That's where I think adoption comes in. Is like helping people understand where it can add value in their life more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Like use cases. It's one of the key things that we help people identify and then also prioritize. As part of my role in Mott MacDonald, I'm responsible for running the adoption plan for Copilot M365, so like the paid version of Copilot.
Can you talk much
But
about that
also-
adoption plan?
Yeah, I mean, I can,
What is that?
I can
What
give
does
you
that adoption
for
plan
the
involve?
Whatever pages we've got.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. What are the key pillars you like on the adoption plan?
Go.
Well, so one of the things that we're doing, and maybe I should take a step back. So, also the reason why we're focusing on a particular tool for generative AI, such as Copilot M365, is because we've got governance that essentially ensures that we are practicing responsible AI, that we are using AI solutions that have been pre-approved as well, so that we don't end up in a situation where someone, for example, if someone goes into the free version of ChatGPT and shares data or information that is confidential for a project that normally in our industry it's pretty sure it would be confidential information, that has a chance to actually be exposed to the public, and that's not something that we want to do. We actually want to be a company that
So governance is one of your core
AI.
pillars. Yeah, governance. Right. So then, what are your other core pillars for adoption that you're focused on?
So what we do with Copilot, for example, is first we don't offer it to everyone in the organization. We have other tools that are offered to everyone. But Copilot M365, the one that actually works within the 365 applications, so Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, all of this. We select people who are already spending a lot of time on those tools, from the basis that these are people who are going to benefit from having an AI plugin, if you like, because that's ultimately what Copilot is. And we target them. We ask them to submit an application. They actually have to tell us what use case they're planning to use Copilot M365 for. And then we make them part of basically of a working group where we run knowledge shares frequently. Every 2 weeks we're currently doing that. But we also make it mandatory for them to attend those sessions, to share their own use cases, how they're using the tool. I like to say to them, make sure that you make it sweat. So they got to do that. They do also information security training and governance training. And they also have to submit surveys regularly so that we understand how they're using it and if they're actually realizing the value.
That's a whole lot of paperwork just to use AI.
It's not.
Is that something you think about? You've processed and gone, if I want to actually use Copilot, I've just got to jump through all of these hoops, and it's a lot of red tape for me to jump through all these hoops.
So
maybe
the thing is that I think it's worth clarifying. The M365 Copilot is a paid version.
Yes.
It's not free. We actually get.
No, I've got a version of that too, and I've got enterprise Chat GPT, and trust me, the number of tools I pay for is ridiculous. But I won't go there because I care about my information as well, and I care about the exact thing that you said, security.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'll give anything a go. Just as long as I'm being careful about it, and I'm not like releasing confidential information all over the world into some AI data hub in some data center that's been stored at, I'll give anything a go. Right?
Yeah.
You know, I'll happily give anything a go, right?
Yeah.
But just from a framework perspective, do you think that's too onerous for somebody to just try AI, whereas it could easily be I grab my phone, I download DeepSeek, and I can still give it a go? You know what I mean? You can't stop people from doing that. How are you going to stop people from doing that? Do you know what I mean?
There are ways that you can do to stop that. But anyway,
how? On mobile data, how are you going to stop me? I'll just go download DeepSeek, 2 seconds, and I'll have access to DeepSeek.
I guess my point, just maybe going back to, is it necessary, the whole...
Step it back, no problem.
Like such a strong framework. I think it's important to notice that when we're talking about not just personal productivity, but we want to actually make that permeate through teams, and from there to like what we call sectors within Mott MacDonald, and really the whole enterprise, the whole organization. It's quite important that we actually do make people accountable for the tool that they've been given, right? The responsibility that they've been given in using that tool, using it wisely, but also like make it part of their team's productivity toolkit. And often in the past, whenever we've just been perhaps a bit more flexible and organic about, this tool is so good, everyone's just going to pick it up. We don't have to do much more than just giving the tool, offering the tool to people. We've actually failed, I would say, in even recording what value we've actually seen from using that tool in the organization. And from what I've seen, AI is great, but some people don't really need much other encouragement to use it and use it wisely and make it sweat and get value out of it. But I do see a lot of people who still need a lot of accompanying and a lot of like, oh, I didn't know about this use case. Oh, I didn't know that there's this new feature. Also, things are moving so fast.
That's my whole point though, right? Okay. So there's like Lovable, that's another app. There's like so many new tools that are coming into play. How do you keep up? How do you know what's right for you?
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, if you actually focus on a few tools that align with your organization principles that have to do with other aspects that are not just innovation, right? Like how easy is it to maintain, how applicable it is for multiple markets, like data security, how does it ensure that, like, there are different aspects that need to be considered when you select tools. I think there is really a danger out there of like people just getting completely overwhelmed and completely disseminated into different tools and not knowing which one to use. They'll get paralyzed by the number of AI tools that are
That's the whole thing,
available.
right? You sleep and you wake up, there's 10 new tools that you didn't know that existed.
Yeah, and then look, it's just all just noise, isn't it? Like, you just need to be, all right, I'm gonna use this AI tool for these purposes and this one's for these others, and have a strategy of, in a way, say no to maybe.
Okay, let's boil it back to the whole red tape conversation, right? Okay, so say it's now for an organization, it's taken about 3 to 6 months to get to a point of just mass adoption where you're getting some value out of the tool. By the time you got to that point of adoption, there's 100 other tools available, 1,000 other tools available, or more. I don't know, right? Who knows, right? So the world's moving so quickly right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think red tape is the best way to go around mass adoption of AI?
I think it really depends on the size of organization. Okay.
Interesting.
So perhaps if you're a small and medium business,
like me.
Yeah. Like
okay.
You.
So in my company, I'll tell you what happens. If my team do not use the enterprise version of ChatGPT, for regular day-to-day work, they're fired.
That's good.
Wait,
See, but
they are, like, I will literally go, I'll find somebody else to fucking replace you tomorrow if you don't want to use the enterprise version of ChatGPT that we've got.
So
right? That's basics.
But that's good. See, I can't fire people. I don't have the ability to do that. Sorry. Well, but you do because it's your own business.
Well, it's and we're a small team as well. We're a tiny team, and we're a very high functioning team.
But so the equivalent, I would say, to you deciding that an employee is not good enough because they're not using ChatGPT would be
it's a running joke, by the way. I won't fire anybody.
you can't have a license of N365 because you haven't been using it as we agreed for the adoption program. You haven't done your use case share. This is not a contributor. There is a long wait list of people who want to have access to the tool. So I'm just going to remove your license, which we do, by the way. I think I forgot mentioning when, But so you're actually using strategies that are not that dissimilar to what we are using in
I'm just like, yep, you've got to use it, otherwise you don't have a job. That's my framework.
I love that. I honestly love that. I wish I could do that.
Well, your framework is I started my own company. There's a little reason behind I started my own company, right? It's I wanted to innovate. I want to create. Okay, that's my sole purpose of existence is I want to innovate, create. I don't want to do the same thing every other project controls company is doing out there. No, I will not be the same. That's non-negotiable for me. That's like fundamental. So I have to be smarter, faster, better every day. I have to be different, and I have to be quick and nimble and adaptable to change. All of those are non-negotiables for me. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the only way now, and thanks to AI, our productivity has just increased tenfold.
Wow.
Easily.
Nice.
Like easily. And I've got stats to prove that as well.
I was going to ask you about
So we do rely on just the key ones. There's ChatGPT, there's Notebook LM, which we heavily rely on. We love Notebook LM. And they're all reliable ones that we can actually use. Copilot, not so much. Right? Copilot's always got the slow version of OpenAI's version. Yeah, they're always two versions behind. Yeah. So hence we went down the whole path of let's go enterprise version of ChatGPT. Copilot, no.
Yeah. I would agree. I think Copilot is definitely more restrained.
Yes,
it's more corporate, and that's why, for example, for an organization like Mott MacDonald, it works well. Also because all of our company data, all of our infrastructure is actually based on Microsoft products. Like, we use SharePoint, we use all of the Power Platform. So we're all like really, Microsoft shop. While if you are a smaller business and you don't have that infrastructure as like that you need to keep on going with, probably, ChatGPT, like the actual enterprise solutions of OpenAI, would be a really good fit, or something else. But yeah, I do agree. Copilot is way less creative than when I use at home, or on my phone, any of the other solutions, like even Perplexity. I really like for doing research. As well. I think it's great. Notebook LM, and all of these are way more creative than the outputs I get from Copilot. But everything has pros and cons, and I think it's about knowing what each of the solutions offer and which one would actually align better with your own values, with your own ways of doing things in your organization, with your own realities.
But the whole point is, if you don't give it a go, you'll never know.
Well, yeah, of course, of course.
So I think here's a good reminder for everybody: if you haven't given it a go, give it a go. You don't have anything to lose. It's free to start with, at least. Yeah. Maria, so you're leading digital transformation in Mott MacDonald at an enterprise level, which is really, really cool. But I wanted to pick your brains on how you actually lead digital transformation in a country where your construction projects are actually dictated by political terms.
What a great question, Andy. I think we got to somehow ignore that in some aspects. I think the idea would be that obviously there is continuity between the different governments that that we get in New Zealand, that they respect the previous government projects.
Never
and,
happens, but never mind.
initiatives. But yeah, it seems like in New Zealand that's just not gonna be the case. So so it's an interesting point, because I think one of the reasons why our industry is substantially a bit more rigid to implement innovation, to really be at the forefront of doing things in a different way than the status quo, has to do with the continuity of projects, with the continuity of a certain pattern over a number of years.
Or is it simply the lack of vision?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say that one of the things, whenever we get ourselves together at the beginning of a project, and we try to see like what we can actually implement to innovate or to do things a bit better than we've done them before, we obviously usually try to bring something that we've already implemented on the previous project, but one of the issues we've got is the number of years that project is going to be running might actually not be that long. Often that project just thinks about the short term real quick wins that can be implemented on the particular project, as opposed to thinking holistically on multiple projects that are on the pipeline, that we can actually see if we innovate or we change this thing here, we are going to be able to do it like for so many other projects. I think our industry does suffer from this idea that every project is different, and there is no way that we can standardize things, or that we can run them with more of a vision over a number of years. That's not necessarily like all the time. I'm kind of like I don't know what I'm saying now.
But you are 100% right though. Even within a construction organization, each project is actually treated as an individual, kind of almost like a company by themselves, like a sub company, where there's no like cross-functional learning. And I've seen this in many organizations, right? There's no cross-functional learning between projects, right? You set up a project team, and then you go, oh yeah, they'll sort it out. They've got their own budget. They've got everything they need, as long as they're making money, nothing else matters. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's such a wrong attitude to take, just from my perspective, as a completely just going, you are an organization where you can actually be integrating all of these projects, and that's where digital transformation comes into play, I think.
Yeah.
Huge part to play in that.
Yeah, and look, at Mott MacDonald, what we've done last year is restructure how we do support for projects from a digital point of view. So we formed something that's called digital services, and we are a business function similar to HR or finance or legal. We do have a little bit of what we call utilization, where we need to ensure that we are actually working on fee earning projects. But we got the ability to help projects where they might not have the budget necessarily upfront to invest in digital, or it might be that we want to help a number of projects that we know we're going to be working on, so that we can consolidate the investment, and we can also consolidate like the actual wins, and then take those solutions and
mass adopt them.
Yes, exactly, and like apply them once and again, and keep on improving them, which is something that you can't really have a vision for if you're just focusing on delivering a particular project at a given time. So yeah, I don't know, there's an idea out there that we're floating around perhaps even incorporating projects needing to dedicate a contingency when they plan their contingency for other aspects of how they're going to deliver the project. Plan one for digital based on the value that we think the solutions that they're going to implement would actually realize. It's kind of like early days where... but yeah, that's an idea that we're floating in our team.
That's really cool. Yeah, at least then you have the budget, the time, and the resource, and you're spreading the risk across multiple different projects, which is like you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Really cool. Maybe some of the New Zealand politicians could learn from that. So who knows? Maria, do you believe the current regulations that are currently in place for AI are they sufficient, or
In New Zealand, you mean?
In New Zealand, yep.
So currently, New Zealand is not regulating AI. I mean,
It's not regulated at all?
no, New Zealand is actually
Yeah.
taking a position of guiding and not heavy regulating AI, which I think I think it's fine. I think the purpose really is to not like the government doesn't want to act as a blocker, which could potentially preclude innovation. New Zealand, I think given the size, it's a country that can do a lot if it's let to do that. If no heavy regulation is applied, but at the same time there is an important aspect, which is that any companies or businesses in New Zealand that want to do business overseas will eventually have to comply with the EU Act or the Colorado Act, and potentially follow standards like the ISO 42000 framework. So there is an aspect, obviously, to consider on that basis. For example, Mott MacDonald is headquartered in the UK, in London. So a lot of our governance that we need to follow is actually based on those frameworks that I've just mentioned. And it's I think it's an important consideration for businesses in New Zealand to take. Yeah.
Which is quite interesting, right? You work across multiple different countries in Mott MacDonald. Funny, actually, I actually started my career in Mott MacDonald, if you didn't know that. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Where did you start with Mott MacDonald?
I started in Abu Dhabi.
In Abu Dhabi?
Yep. So Mott MacDonald actually came to my university and hired me straight out of university.
Oh, wow.
That's how I actually got my start in project controls. So they came to my university for a career day, and they said, they put us through aptitude tests, and I cleared the aptitude test, and they said, you're analytical and you're social. You'd be a perfect fit for our project controls division. And I said, what division? I have no idea. I'm like, will you give me a job? I'm like, so that's how I actually got my start in project controls, because somebody in Mott MacDonald actually identified that I had analytical and critical skills, and I was very social and I could communicate.
Nice.
So that's how I got my start in project controls.
Yeah.
And here I am today, So it's really interesting. So yeah, thank you, Mott MacDonald, for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, I learned so much today.
I tell you what, I learned so much in these podcasts. It's just it all goes in here, and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot to take in, but it's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
What was your first project with Mott MacDonald?
So I worked in the oil and gas division in Mott MacDonald. So they used to be called NAMA Mott MacDonald, and we used to be based out of Abu Dhabi. Yeah, so that's I worked on a project which was a shell project back then.
Right.
And now I'm talking 2009.
Okay.
2009 was when I actually started my career in Mott MacDonald. So I did, I think, 4 or 5 different projects there. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just like, I had my first P6 training, which Mott MacDonald sent me to. And to be honest, I just finished engineering. I wasn't really interested in actually working really hard and studying a lot, because I just did 4 years studying. I was like, okay, some money. I want to party now. That's what I want to do. So I literally spent like 1 year just kind of doing, I'll learn a little bit. That's fine. Yeah, I'll do a little bit of work. This is my first real job. Realistically, my first real job. And I had a great party life in Abu Dhabi. Let's leave it there. I had an amazing party life in Abu Dhabi. Then I moved to New Zealand. But that's anyways, history for me. But before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, so you're fully into robots. It's a hobby. Tell me more.
Well, so I've owned a 3D printer since 2012, I think it is, Replicator 2. So one of the first models that came in the market for desktop. And it was quite it was quite a hobbyist kind of machine at the time, because it would get broken pretty much every time that I tried anything a little bit more outside of the ordinary. And then I also more recently got a snap maker. So yeah, I love 3D printers. I've been tinkering with them for quite a while, printing different things, some things for the house, but also in some cases I did print piers for a bridge.
A what? A pier
like,
for a
like
bridge?
A pier
Right.
for a bridge.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
well, scaled down version of, of a bridge pier. And I brought it into the office and I showed it to the project manager at the time. And eventually he took it into a meeting with the client.
Oh,
and
cool.
He pull it out of his pocket and he showed the client. And then the client was like, oh, wow, we can make like key rings and stuff like this with the piers of our bridges. And anyway, I ended up having to print like little miniature piers for all of the client members, cool. Which was an interesting anecdote. And I suppose that helped me in bringing also skills into the company of like having this vision of where the construction industry will be moving. Like one day I think we would have 3D printing capabilities on site, like one-on-one 3D printing machines that would actually put the buildings together, or perhaps some robots that would
not far away.
And I think we're actually seeing that there are projects around the world where people have 3D printed bridges, like whole bridge of 30 something meters, I think. And in some instances in the USA, there is a company actually building houses in the desert, like full houses. I think it's something to do with proving that maybe that's something that they can use in places like Mars. Once we actually get there. Who knows?
But research also tells me that you're going to get yourself a humanoid robot. Is that true?
Well, so actually my husband and I do speak about this, and especially when I complain that I'm doing tasks that are like super programmatic and really quite predictable. Like loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher, like
they annoy me too, Maria. They really do.
And honestly, with like a little one at home, there's always so much of this that I'm like, there must be something out there that I could use so that I can get more time to play with my son, right? I don't know how feasible it would be to actually have.
So I actually did some research, and it's only $26,000 to get a humanoid robot.
I thought it was 16,000.
Oh, 16. I think the basic version is 16,000. Yeah. So G1 robot is what, 16 to 26? I may be wrong. Could be 16. Yeah.
When you think about it, people spend much more money on a car, right? And what does a car does to your life from taking you from point A to B?
Yeah.
But this robot can.
So questions: Are you getting a humanoid robot?
Well, I would. I think I'm just like a little scared that it might not be that ready yet to have like precision. And imagine if instead of putting the dishwasher, it breaks them, and all of this sort of thing.
Risk reward, yeah.
Yeah. I'm also worried about what my neighbors are gonna think, but I don't know. Maybe that's not something I should worry about.
Why are you worried about your neighbors? Don't worry about neighbors. Hey, you don't need to load the dishwasher. Like, that's a win. Yeah. And I saw some really cool videos of what this actually does. This was like breaking walnuts and opening Coca-Cola bottles, and I'm like, interesting, and it has 2 hours of runtime. So I was like, after looking into you guys looking into it, no, I'm looking into it, and I'm like, maybe we should get a humanoid robot. Yeah.
Well, we already have like a few other things. Like I've got 2 Roombas, one for each floor. And I actually program them so that they run at a given time, like with schedule and things like that. And we also got a Thermomix. So see, I'm like I really love eating good food.
Yeah.
But I'm really bad at cooking. Any time that I've tried, my husband goes like, looks at it and it's like, we're gonna get you Uber Eats, right? Yeah. Fine. But with the Thermomix, I can tell you, it's like the process becomes programmatic, and it really removes the bits that would otherwise stress me, of like having to cut the vegetables and these things, and it just adds joy in that I can cook really good recipes with the help of a robot. So maybe the next step is actually this
getting a humanoid robot.
Yeah, that can do everything. Well, I can have a glass of wine.
I'm fully in support of that.
My son, yeah.
I'm fully in support of that. You should totally get one. Anyways, Maria, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time and all the valuable insights and really engaging conversation about AI. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy, for inviting me. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I know
All
we've
good.
gone into some tangents, but it's been great.
That's the whole point of a podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.